Welcome, friends, to a special presentation episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we feature a beer of the week. Today, we're getting straight into it because we are going to recap Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, Defenders, and The Punisher to prepare you for Daredevil Born Again, releasing March 4th with two, not one, but two episodes. The reviews are out there. We are back. Matt Murdock is back. I am so excited to see our favorite lawyers, Murdock, Nelson. But
Paige is not a lawyer. You can't do that.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, you know what? Where to find us? Hops Geek News, any social media platform, any podcasting platform, share with a friend, share with your mom, share with your lawyer if you so choose. We will get you out of jail, maybe. No promises. And I have a nice beer. I broke out the big guns from Treehouse Brewing. This is one. It's a double IPA. It is called Stick Season from Treehouse Brewing, 8.3%. The leaves have fallen from the trees here in New England, and we are left with a barren expanse of grays and browns. Soon the landscape will be blanketed in white, but in the meantime and in between, we're going to brew you this amplified version of autumn made with all Galaxy hops. See, I didn't choose it for autumn. I chose it because it said Stick Season, and Stick trained Matt Murdock, Daredevil, if you will. That's what I got here. Lauren, what do you got real quick?
So I got one from Calusa because we did a major haul from Calusa. So I had to find a Calusa beer to go with this episode. And so I found this one is called 00. It's double New England IPA with 100% mosaic hops. But the reason this one works is because 00 can refer to atmospheric conditions with zero visibility.
What?
Much like Daredevil, but there's other ways.
You took your glasses off
than just the eyes. Yes, I took off
Lauren had
my reading glasses on. I didn't think the blind glasses, they seemed like they were
actually blind, I feel like. So
I feel like these glasses make me look more like a hippie, and I'm not going to record a whole podcast looking at my. Actually, that's not fair. Too bad. It magnifies them pretty good. I still have my reading glasses on though.
All right. Okay. Well,
yeah,
in the meantime,
very good. Never mind. I lied.
We folks are going to go ahead. We're going to start with season 1 of Daredevil. We're going to talk the recap of it, and we're going to talk about our favorite moments, what we loved about it, kind of thoughts, break down each season. We are going to just break it all down for you, man.
Punishers, Defenders, Echo, and Hawkeye, and She-Hulk. We are covering all of it, folks.
We're going to get you ready. You don't need to rewatch all of it. We did because, number one, gosh, Daredevil is just so incredible. Punisher season 1 is great. Excited. Season 2, Defenders, but it's a lot to watch, and we all have things that are going on. So don't worry, we got your back. So let's start with season 1, recapping it. Matt and Foggy are new avocados at law, baby. And Matt is dabbling in vigilantism, such as stopping human trafficking and kidnapping, which all leads to something much bigger going on in Hell's Kitchen. Different crime families, the Chinese, the Russians, Fisk, they are all working for Wilson Fisk, who thinks he's making Hell's Kitchen great again. The cops, fun fact, also working for Fisk. Now, Matt gets luckily rescued by Claire, the night nurse played by Rosario Dawson, who saves his life after he gets beat up and gets found in a dumpster. She also gets beat up, saves a lot of people, continues to be a badass. She helps because she's seen people in her hospital survive because of the man in the black mask. Because if you remember in season 1, Matt Murdock is wearing the black suit, the ninja suit, if you will, the cargo jeans.
No protection. It's almost like Dexter. Yeah. He just has on a tight black shirt and black pants and that mask that covers. No
protection.
Doesn't cover his very noticeable lips, though. He has very noticeable, beautiful lips, and nothing covers that.
And speaking of beautiful lips, our night nurse, Claire, finds out all about those beautiful lips after they have a nice moment. So
they do have a moment. I liked their moment. I enjoyed their moment.
Me too, actually.
Didn't last long.
No. Karen is Nelson and Murdock's first client. The man in the black mask saved her life, and she's being accused of murder at this point. It was all a cover that coincidentally had to do with Wilson Fisk. They get her off the hook out of the gutter, guys. Season 2 is where Matt gets her off. Okay.
No,
she becomes their assistant. That's two things.
He gets Foggy bond.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Her and Foggy bond while Matt saves Hell's Kitchen. So Karen and Foggy kind of go loosely date in the first season. Fisk buys a painting.
They never went Well, I'll finish doing it.
They did the first date while they went out drinking. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk. So Fisk buys a painting from Vanessa, who knows that he's a bad guy. She's so intrigued and wants to be in his world.
Listen.
Right? We get a lot of Matt's childhood in season 1, including his mentor, Stick. The old blind guy who was cool with killing kids and training kids for the war. The war, Matt. We also got Fisk.
War against the hand.
Yes. Childhood background story where he learned that he kills his dad with a hammer to protect him and his mom. Now, Foggy finds out that Matt is the man in the mask. After finding him half dead in his apartment after a fight with a ninja, oh my god, I just blanked on the ninja's name because the ninja is very important in
Nobu?
season 3. Nobu, yes. Sorry, Jesus, good lord. Nobu rips him to shreds, man. Karen gets
Yeah.
kidnapped by Wesley, Fisk's go-to man, right-hand man. That's when she shoots him 7 times. Bop, bop, bop.
She
Right
emptied
there.
that whole clip into him.
A very cool scene. We'll get to that as well. Fisk kills her reporter best friend, Ben Ulrich. Unfortunately, that's really annoying. They get Dirty Cop to flip on Fisk. Vanessa flies off in a helicopter, and that's where we see Fisk staring at the prison wall that looks a lot like his wall as a child in the painting he bought from Vanessa. Now, I hadn't watched season 1 since season 1 came out. So that was 2015. That was like 10 years ago or something like that. So
wow.
Let's go through it, man. Let's talk. What are your standouts? Standout
I
characters,
forgot how good
moments?
this was.
Yeah.
And I will say though, I don't know what the rules are in New York, but your first murder case cannot be on your own. It has to be with somebody who's done a murder case before. But they just swoop in here, brand new attorneys, and they just get, Karen off, no problem, and they're able to do it. So I always have to do that stuff because it just messes with my brain. But I freaking love this season. I thought it was so good. I forgot how early we got Claire right away. I did forget though that Foggy and Karen had a moment, and I genuinely liked them more together than her with Daredevil because I felt like her and Foggy were more on the same page. Whereas Matt in season 2, when they started
her name's Karen Page.
What?
Just kidding. You said they're on the same page. I was trying to make a pun. Sorry.
That went over my head.
Anyways,
I thought it was a Karen joke. I'm like, she's not a Karen. But no, Foggy was so sweet to her, and she deserves somebody who's sweet. And Matt, I feel like is in love with Elektra, and he has not.
He so is. We'll talk about that in season 2.
He doesn't have closure with that. But then when Foggy goes and sleeps with Marcy, you're like, oh, he messed it up. But then we'll get to that in season 3. He's happily with Marcy. I do wonder if she's going to be in it. And I do want to say this, if you've seen trailers and you've seen things, I have been ignoring all of that. So I'm going into the show like there will be no spoilers.
I haven't seen trailers either. I've actually been ignoring trailers myself.
I watched the first trailer ever at New York Comic Con, and that was it.
I've watched the first trailer they dropped as well, and I have not watched a trailer since. There's been TV spots and stuff, but I haven't watched any of them.
I haven't watched any of that. I've stayed away from the interviews. I've been scrolling past all of them, but I can't wait to
I do wonder if Marcy will be in it, but I
kind of agree with
you. I thought that
like character.
Foggy and Karen going out together, they're having drinks, they're having those really sweet moments. Those are good moments. I really like the Russians, and the other guy who was their accountant, I thought was always kind of funny. He's been in some other stuff, the accountant guy who gets away because he actually is the only smart one who blackmails Fisk, essentially. If
the guy that's in Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, that's where he was from. Yeah, he's the warden in Shawshank. That's right.
He even tries to kill Vanessa.
So they poison. I forgot. So there are things that I forgot, such as
goal is to kill Vanessa to get her off the board to stop. Which is kind of interesting because then Fisk goes and kills Bullseye's girl that he likes in season 3. Oh, because he didn't want him to have distractions.
And also it got him unhinged as well. But anyway, moving that's way ahead. So their thought was essentially that Wilson had become soft with Vanessa and distracted. So they didn't want that to ruin their operation because he was basically trying to gentrify neighborhoods through heroin movements and things like that. You have the little, I think she's the blind Chinese lady who I thought their operation was interesting because they essentially have a bunch of blind people that they pick up.
Yeah, she's not blind, but everybody that works
That's right. She's not blind. Everybody is. My bad.
She's terrifying.
She's scary. Very scary.
She's in Defenders a lot too. Yeah.
The fight sequences though in this season, man, they were like that. I think that's what drew me to this series is the fight sequences were so damn good. And then even the stuff between Matt and his dad, how his dad's getting beat up, and just they never really explain where his mom. Oh, okay.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I know. I said it as soon as I said it. They never explain. Yes, they do, Matt. You stupid idiot.
He's talking to Matt himself, not Matt Murdock.
They do. We'll get to that. Anyways, yes, they do explain where his mom's at, but he is with his dad. His dad's a boxer who,
and it makes more
basically is taking the fall to make money, but his dad. Yeah, well, after the accident, Matt, is always bandaging him up. He's stitching him up, and he just wants to see or hear his dad win one time. And so he bets all of this money basically again on himself instead of taking the dive like he's kind of told he needs to do. He places it on himself and obviously wins and then gets murdered for it, which is how you know that goes down, which is pretty sad. You know, Matt has a very tragic childhood, and I thought the child actor did a really good job, you know,
Yeah,
especially when
and
we
he
found out
comes
he's
back
blind.
too later,
He
yeah.
does. Yeah, and I thought that was great. But overall, I mean, the season it was 13 episodes, and there wasn't really any filler episodes for
No,
me that I
everything
remember. Everything made sense.
yes, everything was needed, I feel like, to move the story forward. And, Charlie Cox is such an amazing actor because not only is he doing these and obviously he is a stuntman and everything, but I
Right.
forgot how, like you were saying, like, it's such like a parkour and climbing up these buildings and doing all these things, but he's still consistently maintaining the fact that he can't see with his eyes. Like,
He was losing roles because he got so good at pretending he was blind.
I
He couldn't
heard
look people in
that.
the eyes, which is just a testament. And you
But
forget because the way he's looking everywhere, like he looks legit blind.
yeah.
It's
And later in
so
season
good.
3, it's interesting to see him when he goes out and he tries to pretend like he's not blind. And it's like, even though he's able to see and do all these things, he still can't read. He still can't see his phone. He still, can't tell if this is a
Call
$10
from
bill or a
Foggy.
$20 bill.
Call
Like,
from.
right. He still does have certain issues that he has to deal with being blind. And so it's so interesting to see him because he's like trying to like look at people. And obviously he
Yeah.
wasn't blind until he was like 10. So he does remember seeing, but
Yeah.
he just, even in She-Hulk, like he does such a phenomenal job. Like, kudos to this actor. I'm so glad that he's
To Charlie Cox. Yeah. I would love to see him in other roles. I don't know if I could ever see him not Daredevil because that's what I've mainly
well,
seen
he's
him in.
also, yeah, he's not American. He doesn't have an American
He's
accent
It's
too.
always so jarring when I see him doing interviews and he's British.
Mhm.
I'm just like, whoa, because he does such a really, really good job. You know, his accent, and the dude is jacked at the same time. And he's
Oh,
having
perfect
so much
abs.
fun. And I think the really big piece too, there's some big pieces that make this thing come together in season 1. Everybody has, chemistry. I thought the chemistry between all of the cast was really good. And then, I also thought the whole fact that I love that they explained, Matt, how do you see? They had that episode where Foggy finds him and they're in his house or apartment, if you will.
Right. And he answers a lot
Um,
of questions we'd like to ask.
yeah. And so they give us like a quick glimpse. It's not basically, Ben Affleck's Daredevil. They showed us
Oh,
how
where it's raining
it's rating. Yeah. It was
and
like
he can see
fire.
Jennifer Garner perfectly.
Oh my God. Yeah. This was, it looks like everything's on fire, which I think is really cool. And then I also love how they played into his senses, how he could sit there and he can really hear. I thought that was really well done in that episode with him and Foggy. Those are the things they do well, is the character expositions between characters were just as good as the fight sequences. And then Wilson Fisk, holy crap, he's a menacing man. One of the first things we see him do is smash one of the Russian brothers' heads in with a car door. And it's brutal. And you see that rage. And Vincent D'Onofrio is so freaking good at that bubbling rage underneath. And it
The
was,
bowling ball scene. Yeah.
yeah. Oh
So
God.
when this first came out, you said it was 2015. So Kaylee was probably 12 when it aired. And at that point, I was watching all the MCU stuff with Kaylee. She saw Iron Man 2 in theaters. And I would go see the movies first at midnight, make sure they were appropriate. And then I would
Oh
bring
yeah.
her. And so when we had watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. together, we'd watch Peggy Carter together. So when this came out, we sat down to watch it. And I think episode 2, I was like, I think this is a show that mommy's going to watch on her own and you're going to have to watch later.
You
But it
aren't
was,
ready for that yet, but
but they,
your kids are going to love it.
but originally, everything they put out, Cloak and Dagger, Runaways, all of it, they were marketing it as part of MCU, and now they're bringing it
Well,
back.
there was callbacks,
Oh, 100%.
in Ben's office.
I was just gonna
They
say,
had
yeah.
Attack on New York.
And Harlem, they have
Yeah,
Abomination. That's so cool.
yeah, which I thought that was cool. So, season 1 ends, in a big way. It's an alley fight between Fisk and Matt, which I thought was really clever. And you kind of get to see, we obviously meet Marvin, and that's who makes the suit. And I thought that was really great. And the suit,
Melvin.
Melvin, sorry, I
So
said Marvin.
sweet.
You're right.
He has to
Marvin's
protect
Pulp
Betsy. That
Fiction.
scene was like heartbreaking where he's just like starts crying and he's like, they're gonna
Yeah.
hurt Betsy. Because Matt right away, Matt has no issue with hurting anybody. Like he is
No.
fine hurting, like it doesn't matter. He's just gonna do what he's got to do. He's just not gonna kill them.
Yeah.
And it's like so he was fine like beating the crap out of
Catholic
Melvin, not knowing if
rage.
yeah, Catholic rage.
And I do like that they played his religion a lot, because you get those scenes with the father and
he even makes fun of it. Yeah.
He does. Yeah.
Like, oh, you really know how to take a beating. Is that from having a boxer as a father? Rosario Dawson says, and he's like, oh, that's Catholicism.
Yeah. And I do absolutely love that. But you're right. He gets a suit, and the suit was awesome. we get that whole sequence of him standing up on the city, and we finally get the suit, because first, what, 12 episodes are him in the black outfit, and then we finally get the suit made because Melvin was working for Fisk, and
because
that's why
Fisk had jackets that were
yeah,
lined with like Kevlar or whatever.
yeah. And
And
the whole alleyway fight sequence was very small. It wasn't this big flashy fight, and Fisk gets beaten in the end, and our cop friend,
strength.
yeah, and it's really
Mahoney,
cool.
gotta love Mahoney, the only honest dude.
And he's not apparently in Daredevil Born Again, which I think is a mistake.
He was even in Punisher. He should be in it.
But why don't you go ahead and run us down season 2 real quick before we talk about season 2?
So we kick off season 2 with Matt and Foggy being best friends again. Nelson and Murdock is absolutely slammed, but they're getting paid with literal bananas and chickens. Punisher is now showing up, and he is shooting up some gangs all over the place. Matt tries to stop him, and he ends up in chains on top of a roof. Meanwhile, Foggy finds Claire while looking for Matt, and Claire says she's been helping another friend. So Luke Cage has now been introduced at this point. So Marcy also mentions Jessica Jones, fun little nod. Matt rescues Punisher, and he then lets the cops actually take Punisher. So Punisher gets arrested pretty early on in the season, which I did not remember that. Matt and Karen start dating right as Elektra shows up. She knows he's the devil in Hell's Kitchen because he can't mask that ass. I loved that line. Matt literally says,
she said,
yeah, he's like, how'd you know it was me? I'm wearing a mask. She goes, you can't mask that ass. And she is not wrong. His lips and his ass.
It's good. Yeah.
It's good. So we see that their past relationship where they had ringworm sex in that boxing place. This is Elektra.
Ringworm sex.
That boxing place has ringworm on there.
That place is condemned. Nobody is ever there. It's always shut. Yeah, of course. That place hasn't been cleaned in 30 years.
Right. So she sees his abilities immediately, or so we think, but we later learn that Stick actually put her up to it all. They do break up when she finds out she basically finds the man who killed Matt's dad, and she's like, go for it, you can kill him. And when he doesn't do it, she's very disappointed and she just disappears.
Yeah.
But they agree now in the future, they agree to take down to the Yakuza together, which is the Japanese mafia, because this is just a bigger deal, a bigger thing that needs to be dealt with. And they're going to put their differences aside, even though their real issue is just that they never got closure and they both still love each other. Karen thinks there is more to Frank Castle than just a mass murderer, as she learns he was a war hero and a family man who lost his wife and kids in the middle of a fight between the different mobs who he killed. So they defend him to get a reduced sentence or to just send him to the loony bin. He ends up in jail, though, and he meets Fisk. Fisk uses him to kill his enemies in an amazing scene where you see like the blood looks like the Punisher logo.
In season 1, and now we get it's all one shots. Their big fight sequences are all one shot. So there's no cuts.
So many one shots in this. Even in like Bullseye Apartment, they were doing like a one shot. They were big on that, which is so
Which
cool.
I thought was awesome in season 1. We didn't even talk about was the one shot in the hallway scene where you see he's just tired.
Yeah, when he's going to rescue the kid.
I really appreciate that about Daredevil is he's freaking tired, but he's still getting up. He's exhausted. He's got his ass whooped, but he's still getting up. That was dope.
Yes. I remember in Guardians 3, there was that one scene in like one of the
they were in the hallway. Yeah, they were in the hallway.
And it reminded me of that because it was just such a fun, great scene, and it was all done in that one.
It's impressive when they can do those one-shot scenes, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's fun. So Fisk uses him to kill all his enemies, and then he gets him freed because his hope is that he will get out and kill all Fisk's enemies, and then Hell's Kitchen will be Fisk's ripe for the taking.
Once more,
because everyone else will be
Fisk
dead.
Will rule Hell's Kitchen.
Because he really wasn't in season 2 much. He was really just that little.
There. Yeah. He was in the prison in the last few episodes.
Rebuilding himself.
Yeah.
So Karen was not wrong. There is more to Frank, but Frank is still a mass murderer. Turns out there was a sting gone wrong at the carousel where his family was murdered, and the cops tried to cover it up. And this is what we think now, because this is going to change when we get to Punisher. So the big drug guy was actually someone he was in the military with. What? And it was Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown
playing a military guy that's a bad guy.
Bamboozling us. It's not the first time we thought he was a good guy in something, and then he turned out to be a bad guy because he has that great voice for being a good guy and being a bad. So Frank actually saves Karen more than once as she's almost uncovered the truth. Because then they try to make it seem like once he gets out, that he's trying to shoot everybody, including the DA. And it's not him. It's this Clancy Brown guy. And Karen at first isn't sure. And then when Punisher literally saves her life is when she's like, okay, well,
that whole boat sequence and stuff too is pretty, yeah.
So Elektra and Matt fighting the Yakuza, and they're losing terribly. Stick shows up to save their ass. We learn about the hand and about achieving immortality. This is the first time I feel like the show goes into a supernatural kind of thing and not just like a very grounded show, which is like a reminder it's a comic book show. We also learn Elektra has always worked for Stick, but they really do love each other. And in the end, the Hand wants Elektra. Matt and her fight them, and she dies saving Matt after they agreed to run away together. They said, if we get out of this, we're going to run away together. You know that's not going to happen, but you know that they also both mean it. And Elektra sacrificing herself was very sweet because that's not her personality. But then we get Punisher up on a roof shooting some
head nod, ninjas. See you around, Red.
And then Matt tells Karen that he's Daredevil, and we see the Hand trying to resurrect Elektra.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, the whole final sequence where, hey, why did you call me here? Because Foggy and Nelson are no more. They're Foggy and Nelson are no more. It's the same person, you idiot. It's Nelson and Murdock are no more. Sorry.
But you remember, too, the Yakuza gathered up all the people that Daredevil had rescued to get Daredevil as bait.
And then one dude with the ankle monitor was...
Yeah, who's in Luke Cage. Yep. So, but we see Daredevil after he rescues those people that have been kidnapped, the hostages.
She knew because it's basically from Batman Begins where he's like, it's not who you are, they're underneath, but what you do that defines you. That was his Batman Begins moment where Katie Holmes figures out that Bruce is Batman. That's what it was. You were right. Because he touches her face and she has that moment of realization. I think she's like denying it in her head. And then when he brings, she's like, what are you doing? So he pulls it out. And then that's when the season ends. And you're just like, how are you going to drop it right there? What the hell?
Do you think it's like a Lois and Clark kind of thing of like, I'm in love with Superman, but not Clark?
I think to a degree. So when I first watched Daredevil season 2, 2016 is when that came out. I didn't like their relationship together. I was with you where I liked them, Matt and Elektra.
Just like them. I just think she deserves better. And Elektra knows Matt. She knows what he is and she accepts him for what he is. Whereas Karen never even got that opportunity.
That's where I was kind of go. I liked them, the potential. I like the potential of Matt and Karen, I think, because they're both kind of damaged people. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. She was in True Blood as well, but I like the potential that they could have had together. I like their chemistry together a lot. And it really sucks because Karen, I think she did like Daredevil to that degree because he saved her life. The man in the mask more than once. Yeah. And then Matt was that strong, smart, witty, funny figure in her life. And, they started to kind of date. And it's funny when they have to go on their dates, they don't know what to talk about and kind of evolves from there.
She's up in Elektra's in his bed. But she's got to think it's weird, too, that there's this random old blind guy there, too.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because when she shows up, Stick just lets her in, first of all. And then, many questions.
She's not Yakuza.
Matt's not in bed with her. She's laying there, obviously in rough shape in his bed. You got this blind old guy.
You wrote Avocado at Law, too?
Yeah.
I just noticed that.
So
Sorry.
My first instinct would have been like, hey, who's that girl? I got a lot of questions. Why is there a blind old guy? Who's that? What is going on here? Clearly.
But Matt wasn't answering his phone or communicating with her. So it's
right, so she showed up. I get it. It was toxic.
What the hell's going on? Yeah, it was. Yes,
Matt gets really toxic in this. And it's because of Elektra, right? I really liked I do like Elektra and Matt there. I thought Elodie Young had really good chemistry with Charlie Cox because they did, especially, the final moments and the things between, why did you leave? I would have gone with you everywhere. Those moments are really, really good before they go to the rooftop and fight the Hand and all of that. That was really, really damn good. Like the emotional beats.
Together, yeah.
And it finds out that, obviously, Stick had trained Elektra, all that kind of stuff, the stuff with the Hand. I thought these strong points.
Story was tragic.
Well, yeah, she was basically from the get-go. I mean, she was Black Sun.
She was trained, Black Sky.
Black Sky, that's what it was. Black Sun's different.
Black Sun, I think that's a song.
Black Hole Sun. That's Chris Cornell. But so I thought the stuff with the Punisher was the best, obviously, because you get that graveyard sequence between the two of them when he's just talking.
Oh, yeah. I feel like he figured it out really quick, but they never make it clear.
Until his mask is off and he looks through the sniper and he sees who it is. But I think he did figure it out. I really do.
They even say, like, I've seen clips of it. It's like, the moment he realizes, like, he says Frank or something very distinctly in court, I think. And, like, some people claim that was when Castle was like, whoa, I know that.
Let's talk about the court stuff. I thought the court stuff was really awesome. So the exposition scenes.
You never would have gotten a trial that quick. But
Oh, well,
yeah.
no, not with, I don't care how many people
Oh,
you
we're
kill.
going to court a week later? No, you're not.
Yeah. So he's still in the hospital, and that's when he determines, and then the court. So no, they're not. And I like the graveyard scene, but then I like the whole courtroom scene with Foggy having to give the opening deposition.
Yes.
I thought that was really good.
And one of the things I forgot was the skull picture, which obviously they're making it look like the Punisher symbol, but where he was shot in the head, how that makes him constantly be reliving that PTSD. I thought that was just so, I didn't remember that at all. I thought that was so interesting and so traumatizing. And it makes sense if you're constantly living in this state of like hot blood versus cold blood. Because like when you have murder conviction, they take into account whether this was premeditated or cold-blooded versus hot-blooded being in the moment. So
Lauren's
if he's
a lawyer, just
constantly
everybody.
living in a state of PTSD, it makes his blood constantly hot because it's always right there, even though he's clearly premeditating this stuff. It's kind of hard to defend this 37 counts of murder.
I mean, he's killing the bad guys.
Like when they're like, we're gonna downsize you to this and this. I'm like, it's still 37 counts of murder.
Hey, listen, okay, he's bad guy, but he was killing bad guys. So is he really a bad guy?
Well, they keep, they go further and further into that, into Punisher.
Well, right.
Yeah, so after this, though, before we get to season 3, we have Defenders.
Well, hold on, I'm not done with season 2 yet. Come on,
man.
Okay,
my
Give
bad.
me a second. I'm working here.
I'm just making sure I'm not taking too much time because I feel like we could have like a 10-hour podcast on this.
Easily. Because there's so much to love about this.
There is.
I really did like in Frank, so I really like how See Around read. That was awesome. Elektra died. That was, Matt soul crushing. I like the fight sequence. Nobu is still around. The stuff
because they resurrected him.
Well, oh my god, we didn't even talk. The stuff with Stick where they're putting bamboo in his fingernails. That was hard to watch.
Oh my god! And then he had like a freaking worst manicure ever. I looked away for that. I couldn't
really
watch
clever
it.
Though how Stick was whispering to Matt, and that's one of the things I love about it. Again, yeah, that was
because the ninjas could calm their hearts. Because they knew that he was blind.
Well, that again with the ninjas, right? There's when the ninja broke into Matt's house and he's fighting him, and then Elektra comes up and just cuts his throat after she determines.
And he's like, it was a kid. Yeah.
And she's like, "This is who I am, Matthew." For some reason, I like how she says Matthew. I don't know.
I do. I love that she calls him Matthew and then he calls him Maddie.
Yeah, I like the different names, and it's all good. It's season 2 was kind of a downtrodden, but only because the stuff with the hand was not as interesting as the stuff with the Punisher. But that prison fight sequence with like Fisk and everything was so good. Freaking, he goes through there and he's got the shiv after. I like they beat each other up too afterwards. So you've got Frank Castle going down there to basically find out that the whole thing was a setup. It was a sting operation that his family got killed in.
So he thinks at the time.
Yes. And so then from there, he's killing all these prisoners. Like that fight sequence was just absolutely nuts. And then he's beat up and turns to find out there's Wilson Fisk. And yeah, of course, I was going to have you killed, tying up loose ends, but I can find value in you. And they trade.
I love about Wilson Fisk. There's all this other shit going around. Nobody's paying any mind to him. And he's like, when I was growing up, this is something my mother used to say to me. And it's like, where did this come from?
I do love that. He's just walking around and there's so much going. He's like, when I was a boy,
I'm like, there was
do find value in this.
How did I not like it's one of those like looking around. Is anybody else hearing this guy? Is this relevant?
The guards are like, you know what? He's got a point. We should work for this guy. And
they always listen to him.
They do. They really do. So that was great.
He's a mutant and it's like power of persuasion. We never knew
It's from the Umbrella Academy. I heard a rumor.
Right.
It's just his thing is when I was a boy. Yeah. And everyone's like,
it's almost kind of out of left field.
Oh, he is spitting. All right. Because even Frank, after they beat each other up, he goes, yes, I was going to kill you. But I was a boy.
That was a good impression, the way you shook like that.
That's what he did.
Anyways,
Defenders.
White jacket.
Yeah, we're not going to get too big into Defenders. You could skip this, honestly. But so we're going to give you like a brief. You don't have to watch Defenders. Just know that the hand at the end of season 2 of Daredevil takes Elektra's body. So Elektra is back and the hand is still around. Surprise, surprise. They have turned Elektra into their weapon. The hand's goal is to use the Iron Fist. The
immortal Iron Fist.
To open up the gates underneath New York City in order to get more of their stuff that helps them resurrect people. But however, it will level New York City. So the Defenders, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Colleen, and Claire Temple are ready to take down the building to stop the hand. Misty loses her arm in the process of all of this.
Which we were all waiting for that to happen because she doesn't have an arm in the comics.
The second
and it's like
she
in that movie Hot Tub Time Machine. Oh, is this where they're going to lose their arm?
To be honest, I really can't wait to see Misty Knight. Hopefully we get her
It's
with
Falcon with
yeah,
Sam Wilson's Captain
yes,
America.
yes. That's
Yes.
exactly where I was going.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And
sorry.
all right. Anyways, so as the defenders leave the underground building to stop the hand, we already talked about that. Sorry. As they leave the tunnel, it's about to blow. I just picture the Grinch. It's gonna blow. Daredevil stays behind so he can try and get through to Elektra again. So they fight as everybody else flees. The building collapses with Matt and Elektra still inside at the bottom, making out in hot, passionate ways. Trish spins it on a radio show to something not involving ninjas. Everybody has moved on in New York City, and that's when we see Matt all bandaged up on a tiny little bed with a nun.
And not in the fun way.
Yeah, not in the fun way. This isn't that kind of movie, folks.
Not
Unfortunately,
in the
that's
spank me again way.
all you need to take from Defenders is Elektra bad guy, Hand of bad guy, Matt building.
But Elektra wasn't herself. They resurrected her, so she was evil. So that's why Matt was still trying to get through to her, and he told everybody else to leave. Although I will say, so I only rewatched the finale. I read a description. Did you rewatch Defenders? No. Okay.
I read the descriptions. Let's be honest.
I read the description and then I watched the finale, and I forgot because I had watched everything: Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, all of it. They brought freaking everybody into that.
They
show.
did, and I love that.
And it was kind of cool to see some of the people like Trish and Karen were together, doing all the stuff while they're at the building. And then when everybody's coming back and you see all the respective shows, hugging the person, like Trish hugs Jessica and Claire I think she's dating Luke Cage at the time. And then you see Foggy and Karen are waiting for Matt to walk in and he doesn't. And then they just start crying. Right. So I did really think it was cool how beautifully they interwove and connected everything. And I also, one of my favorite things that I do remember was how much they all make fun of Iron Fist in the Defenders. I really did love that. Luke Cage.
Iron Fist.
I freaking love Luke Cage.
I
feel like his show is underrated.
Season 1 of Luke Cage is underrated. Season 2's, man. Something about season 2's. Jessica Jones season 2, Luke Cage season 2.
Jessica Jones had 3 seasons. Actually, I think people forget that.
I do forget that. I'll be real. Iron Fist's second season was actually pretty decent.
It did get better.
It did.
And it ended with the one dude, what was his name at the end? He wasn't such a douche anymore. And they were becoming, it ended on a cliffhanger that actually was maybe the next season will be good.
And then there might be.
And they made a joke. My favorite thing in season 2 of Iron Fist was when the sister got the one guy's, God, I can't remember their names at all. The sister was kidnapped by somebody, and she said something, and she's like, "How did you find me?" And he's like, "Oh, we talked to a man down by the river," because somebody was living in a RV or whatever down by the river. And I was like, "Oh, he made a Chris Farley joke." So I think that was the highlight of Iron Fist.
Well,
it was the Chris Farley joke. Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and take us into season 1 of Punisher? Season 2, we don't really, but why don't you go where we last saw the Punisher or the highlights of the Punisher?
Yes. So before his own show, again, the last time we saw him was on the roof shooting ninjas to help Red after Naboo killed Elektra while trying to kill Daredevil. So Frank finishes his killing spree, and then he is just working construction, living his life as Pete. Enter Madani, someone who was stationed in Afghanistan, now in the States, and a Homeland Security agent who's also really pretty, who is investigating the death of Ahmad Zubar, who is an Afghan cop who is investigating heroin trafficking in Kandahar. This leads to her investigating Frank. Frank recently killed a whole bunch more mob people, protecting a friend, and got on the radar of Micro. So Micro, who's also known as David Lieberman. So Frank reaches out to Karen Page for help figuring out who the hell this Micro dude is. Because remember, him and Karen definitely do have sort of a bond. Karen definitely has a soft spot in her heart for him. Turns out Micro was an NSA analyst that faked his own death to protect his family. Madani and Billy Russo, who's also very attractive, then meet and eventually start banging. Billy served with Frank and now owns a private military company. Frank learns the Central Park Massacre, which is that whole sting operation gone bad that killed his family, was not a sting gone wrong, but an actual attempt to kill Frank. Frank and Micro decide to team up, and they're going to take down Frank's old team. Frank gets himself hurt pretty bad, and he reaches out to Curtis, another vet friend, who definitely gave me some Sam Wilson vibes because he is also a vet, and he's also hosting meetings for other vets that are struggling with coming back to the States after being in war. So Russo reaches out to Frank and tries to get him to join his private military group. Keep in mind, too, Billy Russo is Jigsaw. They never call him Jigsaw, I don't think, or refer to him as Jigsaw.
They don't.
That's his villain name. So we learn Billy Russo is the ultimate baddie this season, along with William Rollins. So Russo was even bugging Madani's place, the girl he was banging. Russo and Rollins are trying to cover their own asses, and they go to such extremes as kidnapping Micro's wife and kid. One of the kids fortunately got away. Frank kills Rollins ones, but not without getting his ass tortured and kicked, which results in Madani and Micro bringing him to her father's house to patch him up. And then Madani is like, okay, you can go, but if I see you again, I'm going to arrest you next time. Frank obviously does not listen to that. He does try to kill Russo while Russo is having coffee and pointing a gun at Curtis, who we love Curtis. He's such a nice dude, man. He's just trying to live his life, especially in season 2. Like, he's just like,
Curtis, just be there, man. Okay. He's tired.
He can't not do good. And he knows Billy's going to shoot him. He's like, can I make coffee? And he's like, sure. So Castle sees him through the window at Curtis's place and he shoots him. So Castle and Billy agree to meet though over the phone while he's at Curtis's at the Ferris wheel where his family was slaughtered. Billy
it's not a Ferris wheel, it's a carousel. Ferris wheels are big and circle and go. This is
right,
a carousel.
It is the carousel. Yes. So Billy ties up some teens who work there that just wanted to make out, and he taunts Frank because he knows Frank wants to save the innocent. So Frank, I had to turn away at this. This was the main thing I remembered, and I had to turn away.
Freaking love this. Is it dragging his face along the glass?
Yes, because
dude, it's so metal.
It's brutal. But it's also because Billy's like, drop the guns, drop the knives. So he had to use what he could, and he breaks the glass and scrapes, and that's how he becomes Jigsaw. Apparently,
it's his screaming as it's happening in the visceralness of it. Oh my god, yeah.
And I feel like the fact that they cast somebody who was attractive makes it even more, because he's like, oh, there goes your pretty face. Like, I feel like it had like more of an effect of like, you're seeing this like pretty guy who gets everything he wants. Well, he doesn't look that bad with the scars, let's be honest. So yeah, that was gross. He frees the kids, and Madani gets shot because she shows up and she gets shot.
She does, yep.
So Frank sits there holding her head and knowing that if he stays there, he's going to get arrested, but he's not going to let Madani bleed out. So he's sitting there, putting compression on her head. Madani then at the hospital convinces her team to let Frank go, and they do. Frank Castle is now legally dead, and his prints have been wiped from the system, while Pete, his previous alias, can go on and live his apple pie life. And we end with Billy still in a coma with no idea if he will recover mentally or physically, but his face is covered in gauze and supposedly no longer very pretty.
Okay. What I loved about Punisher season 1 was how brutal the fights were. So when they're holding Frank, for example, torturing him, it's, the blood
torture scenes are hard to watch.
First of all, like Frank Castle, I don't know how that man's still alive.
How are any of them still alive? All of them should be dead.
The dude got his foot drilled into in Daredevil season 2 in that from the Irish guy.
Right at the beginning of season 2 of Daredevil.
And from that point, I mean, dude's been shot, stabbed, everything, and then he's getting tortured, which I thought was crazy. And then when he breaks free and he just shoves his fingers in the guy's eyes on the floor, that was just effing so crazy. And then just the whole carousel fight sequence between Russo and him, and that's what John Bernthal's Russo, his guttural screams and things, I think was what makes a lot of these scenes harder as well, because he has such, again, a visceral way of acting, as though the actual pain, emotion, the anguish. And there was some really good scenes where he's sitting at the dinner table of his family's house, right? I mean, Daredevil season 2, we saw his last sequences where he burns down his house, and blows it up. In season 1, we see him kill some people in the bathroom. Then he gets rid of and burns the Punisher stuff. And he went to go live a construction life, and he's just sledgehammering away when we first see him.
They all do when they're trying to hide. Like Dexter, Wolverine, that's where they all, Magneto, they all do that. That's so funny. Huh,
yeah.
This is such a trope. But I also love, like, he has such a sweet smile. And that's, what still makes him like lovable and human. And what makes John Berthal such a great actor is like, you see him at the bar at the beginning of season 2 and he's smiling. Yeah, he's warm. Yeah.
No, I mean, they really are. And that's the thing that kind of stinks about season 2, right? I'm not going to go through season 2, but basically the last
Punisher.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read. Oh, we do?
Yeah, I broke it down. It's after Daredevil season 3.
Okay, you're right. We'll get to that then. Never mind. The fight sequences then were just absolutely insane for Punisher season 1. And I thought Bernthal just absolutely crushed Frank Castle from head to toe. Bernthal's an incredible actor. So this rolls us into Daredevil season 3 now. We kick off right after the Defenders. So Matt's half dead. A cabbie finds him passed out, dying. He says to take him to this church. The nuns then nurse him to health at the orphanage that he grew up in while he's half conscious, asking for Elektra, who claims was with him when the building collapsed. That leaves him half dead. Foggy thinks he's dead because he knew he was in the building. Karen is not convinced. This is a season where she becomes more of a reporter. She basically takes Ben office and goes from there. So as Matt recovers, he's deaf in 1 year, legit deaf in 1 year. He can't hear, lost a lot of his heightened senses. One use of the neti pot, and out comes all of the blood, and we get a sick training montage where we get a really cool boxing sequence where the guy's like, "You sure you want me to fight this blind guy?"
I don't want to punch a blind guy.
Yeah, right. There's something about a Catholic priest paying you money to come to the basement of a church to fight a blind guy.
Can we talk about how this priest too takes his collar off and like hustles people at pool?
That's the other. So the priest can be found on Friday nights, collar off, in a black pants, black shirt. The dude is out here hustling. Dean Winchester straight hustling on the pool table.
Thinking of Dean too, yes.
Listen, church donations must be rough in this economy because that man is out there hustling.
Hey, Hell's Kitchen has lost a lot.
But yeah, so after he feels better, he goes back to being a vigilante. He gets his ass kicked at first. As he does, he's not ready.
His ass kicked all the time.
This is where we, meet an FBI agent who is in debt because it finds out that his sister-in-law had cancer and health coverage wasn't covering it. They canceled it. It turned out
Fisk did that.
I was getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So he goes there, gets Fisk out of house arrest because they flip on the Albanians, which is awesome. So Fisk is on house arrest now, which leans Matt to going and seeing Foggy in a bar. "I'm alive, bro." Yeah. He takes his wallet. That's the whole reason. That's when he enters the prison to figure out how Fisk gets out. This leads to probably the best single one-shot fight sequence in cinema history and Daredevil history, where Matt goes to get checked out after getting punched by the guy because he doesn't want to be thinking that he's helping a lawyer find the Albanians. And so he's in there. One of the doctors is working for Fisk, who's watching through the little camera, tries to stab him, and the fight sequence comes in. He's going through the hallways. He's fighting everybody. That's when he meets the Albanian guy. He's like, "Hey, man, promise you, why is Fisk after you?" They have this whole exchange. Essentially, the Albanians offer Matt protection and order.
We didn't
do anything.
Stab you. Fisk had paid somebody to stab you or stab himself so that he could get out and blame it on us.
Yes. And the guy who stabbed Fisk was supposed to be in the hole, but on the books, he's on the hole, but really to find out he got out of prison, Fisk arranged this whole thing. And so in order to find out and break that, they will help him, which leads to another really cool sequence where the Albanian guys in the cop riot gear, and there's riots going on. There's cops getting into fights, and you just see Murdock being drugged through there, and he's half alive. Like, dude.
When Fisk is watching this too.
He is.
Fisk
it's so
already in suspicion that he was not just this blind dude when he attacked him personally.
He says,
and he did the
great reflexes for a lawyer, for a blind guy or whatever.
Yes,
when I was a boy,
boxer.
I never saw somebody with as reflexes as you. So yeah, and that's basically when he's confirmed to be Daredevil to him. But it's such an incredible sequence going through the prison, getting the keys, unlocking it, and then it leads to him because he paid the cabbie like, "Hey, wait here."
I'm surprised that cabbie waited.
That cabbie waited. There's a riot going on.
He did.
A whole ass riot going on at this prison. This cabbie was posted.
He's like, he paid me good. I'm gonna follow through on this. Matt has no idea how much he paid him because it was
no idea.
See that?
Yeah.
He just handed him all the money that was in Foggy's wallet. Yeah, it could have been like
all he knows it could have been it could have been just straight ones. It was $20 or something. But he gets out, he hops in there, gone. It was insane. All right. So at that point, the Albanians, after we talk to them, they give up a name. Matt then reveals himself to Karen. He's alive. He asks Karen to help find that person to expose Fisk. She says no at first, of course. And at this point, the FBI is now looking for Matt. They show up at his apartment, find that he was there recently. This worries Karen and will cause them to dig and learn that she killed Wesley. So from there, she confides in Foggy, pays him $2, $3 to
because you just need consideration to enter into a contract. So that was the whole thing. You just have to pay me something. He's
attorney. I need attorney-client privilege. He goes, you got to pay me.
She has to officially retain him in order to give that attorney-client privilege. Although if somebody's seeking out for just legal advice, it's still attorney-client. But this was like, I'm confessing something that should require you to go to the cops and tell them because I straight up murder somebody. But what I love about this too is this happened at the end of season 1. And we're addressing this in 3 time.
It's coming back around. Like Wesley died. You knew Fisk was pissed. Season 2 is just nothing about it. And now in season 3, it's coming back to roost, so to speak, which is dope. So now all the while, Poindexter, who's Bullseye, is one of the agents who
lame ass last name
is keeping eye on Fisk. So while they were transporting Fisk to his penthouse, There was a big shootout. They were coming after Fisk, and there was a random FBI agent that ran and killed everybody, and turns out to be Poindexter. And now
He
they're
saved Nadim and Fisk.
Yep. So Poindexter's got the trust of Fisk and Nadim, but now he's also on Fisk's radar. Fisk manipulates Dex into dressing as Daredevil. So Melvin makes a suit for Dex. He manipulates him through a bunch of other things, basically using Julie against him, and how there's also an investigation going on against Dex at this
Julie
point.
was the girl that he liked and was pseudo.
He was obsessed because, as we found out, Dex's childhood, he killed his baseball coach. He has a lot of issues.
Killed a lot of animals.
And yeah,
I didn't even remember he killed his baseball coach.
Remember, he threw the ball at him for taking him out.
Oh,
it wasn't an accident. Yeah. So he has the tapes where his therapist is telling him he needs to find somebody. So he latches onto Julie at the suicide.
To have your moral code, which is a great person to latch onto because she had a great moral compass.
Yeah. And he stalks her and then all that other stuff at that point.
Very Dexter vibes. And every time they call him Dex, I'm like, oh, this is funny.
He played a hell of an actor too, as well. And at this point, this is where the FBI is about to hear Jasper's truth. And that's when we first, because they have Jasper in custody, he's going on camera to recognize the FBI is coming down.
He's at the New York Bulletin, yeah.
He is. Matt's innocence. And so at that point, that's when we get, fake Daredevil, Bullseye versus the real Daredevil, which was a really great fight sequence. And it was funny, just Daredevil Bullseye throwing random stuff at Daredevil and hitting him with random things, which knocked him over and stuff. It was just
stapler and stuff.
It was a stapler, all that.
Well, because it's Bullseye, so he can just throw whatever and he's going to hit you.
Yeah.
And you see him and Hawkeye go.
Obviously, Bullseye wins. He walks in, he shoots Jasper, kills him, which is crazy. Straight up. Oh man, the blood sequence, it was crazy. The FBI blames Daredevil because he was in the Daredevil suit, except it makes no sense.
Fake news. Nope.
Yeah. Matt learns then that the nun that's been taking care of him since his dad died is actually his mom, because he finds out by overhearing her prayer. She fell in love with Matt's dad. We get a flashback sequence, a couple of nuns at a boxing show on a Friday night. This, she decided not to be a nun. She had postpartum depression. Battle and Jack called the priest for help. They came, took her back to the church, whole thing. FBI guy is now on Daredevil's side. Nadine is now on Daredevil's side. He's going through it with his family. He finally believes. They go and they search Dex's apartment. They find the safe and the tapes.
They illegally search it, though. Nadine goes in there illegally, and Daredevil's guiding him through it.
And that's when Nadine gets shot by Bullseye. And so he tells his boss, along with a professional, responsive person, his boss then shoots the other boss, FBI guy, and tells the FBI guy who's trying to do good that he now works for Fisk. So Nadine now works for Fisk.
So Fisk then professional responsibility dude who comes into just to that's the person who's supposed to make sure everything's moral. We're doing internal investigations kind of thing. And he's like, holy shit, where do we start? We got to order you an ambulance.
And then bang, because all the plastic just is so conveniently
And you saw that too. She was remodeling her house. No, she had it Dexter-fied. That was a kill room.
She did. It was plastic. I'm just saying. It was all interesting. So Fisk has the FBI call Matt and tries to trap him. Obviously, Matt knows and Fisk knows that he knows. We know, everybody knows.
Like from Friends, they don't know that we know that they know that we know.
Meanwhile, Nadine is just driving Bullseye in a Daredevil suit in nighttime. I hope those windows are really tinted because he's just driving with him in the passenger seat. It was kind of funny to me. But Karen's hiding at the church, actually, that, Matt was hiding at. Fisk sends everybody to go kill Karen. She told Fisk, she tried to draw Fisk out. She says that how she killed Wesley, which really irates him. So he sends Bullseye after Karen. And at that point, they hide in the church. There's a whole big fight sequence that goes down. Pretty awesome fight sequence, if you ask me. Matt gets his ass whooped again, of course. And with the help of Matt's mom, they hide. And that's when we get our friend, who is now a detective, if you will, to come. Or I'm jumping ahead. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, I see where you're at. So, so what happens is they're searching the church. Matt's mom hides them basically like a coffin.
In the tomb. Yeah.
Well, Matt had hidden there, but there was blood on there. So she picked up on that. So she redirected them somewhere else. So then what happens is Foggy decides to step in and act as Karen's attorney and shows up. And he's like, hey, I'm her attorney. I'm releasing her into the custody of the state police. So, and the FBI and the local police are arguing as to who has jurisdiction in this situation. However, Nadim whispers to Mahoney, the FBI takes her, she's going to be dead before we get around the block or something like that.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
that's when all of a sudden you realize Nadim is like, I don't want to say he switched because he was never fully evil. He was just protecting the people that he
I
loved,
mean, he was put in a
which
bad spot.
so
I mean,
was his
they were threatening
boss.
his son and they were
Yes.
threatening his wife, and then his boss was also under threat. So, I mean,
But the boss, she had already lost her son. She divorced her husband to keep her husband safe, had already
right.
lost one kid and
So,
was
like,
protecting the other kid.
the other kid stays with the husband just because he's more safe that way.
Right.
And so, yeah, it leads to this whole thing at that point.
So
And
yeah,
so the
we're
FBI tries
oh, yeah.
to get them. Matt gets up, gets them to safety. Nadim then testifies in front of a grand jury. However, Fisk got to the jurors first because the one juror starts to recite everybody's address. Nadim goes home, films this whole very touching thing.
Supposed to be building a pool.
Yes. And so he's standing there with the ditch of the pool. That's when Bullseye shows up and he's, I'm not going inside with you, dude. And he goes to pull his gun, gets shot. Rest in peace, Nadine. And conveniently, the
But
video that he leaked,
filmed something beforehand.
and it leaks during Fisk's big wedding. That's when Matt also tells Bullseye that Fisk killed his Julie. So everybody shows up. 3-way match at WrestleMania, Fisk's apartment
But
complex.
Daredevil's still protecting Vanessa, and Bullseye's going after Vanessa. And
So he
Vanessa
was.
did
It
order
was-
the
okay.
hit on Nadim. Fisk was going to let Nadim
That's when
live.
she basically was like, I want to be in your world. And so he shows her the private room where he's watching everybody and she's like, kill him or whatever. And it's like, damn, Vanessa, girl, you was just selling art 2 weeks ago. What's going on now? Like, all right.
She's like, I'm already living this criminal life of having to hide. So
I know,
I'm ready
no
to.
kidding.
She wanted to be on. It's weird because part of me understood it. She didn't want to be like, she was a powerful woman in her own regard. She was very successful. She was running her, art gallery, very intelligent, and now she's been having to hide and be like protected by these men that she doesn't know. She
felt so alone.
Yeah, and so she's like, look, if I'm going to be here, I want to be an equal. I don't want to be put in like this other room and be protected. Treat me equal, and I respected her for that. But Nadim was just trying to.
She went from like art curator to serial killer real fast, but
she
whatever.
She only ordered a hit on one. I think it has to be 3. If Dexter is correct, it has to be 3 to be a serial killer. I've never Googled that.
Though, I do like how Bullseye's trying to throw stuff at her, and you just see Matt randomly diving, like
Which I think that also helped to navigate the agreement that they make. I think that
yes, okay.
That.
So there's a brutal beatdown going down between, you get really, like, this is perhaps the best fight sequence in all of Daredevil. Fisk versus Matt versus Dex, and they're all fighting each other.
Fisk and Vanessa are in their wedding outfits.
Right, so Fisk is in his white tux, and go ahead. No, what do you got? Tell me.
In Hawkeye, he's wearing that white suit, but it's like a white and red, like Hawaiian print.
Yeah.
And then as you see his wedding white suit get like covered in blood, it made me think of that.
Oh, good catch.
I don't know if that was intentional in any way, shape, or form, or just where like my brain weirdly went. But I went to Hawkeye when his
that's a good point. I didn't even put that together. That was a good point.
Well, I might have been the only one that put that together because it's bullshit.
This fight sequence is crazy. So Matt's down for the count. Bullseye and Fisk get into it, and that's when Fisk picks him up and snaps his back against the wall corner. That was crazy. And then Matt and Fisk go toe to toe, and that's when Matt beats his ass. And essentially, Fisk is laying like on his knees, hands out in like a Jesus pose, and Matt's, I beat you. And they make that agreement. He pulls his mask up. He's like, you're not going to tell anybody because, otherwise I'm sending everybody after Vanessa, XYZ. And so they make this gentleman's agreement between the two of them that, I'm Daredevil, but you're not going to tell anybody. Yeah. He pulls because he's in the all black, and he pulls his mask up. He's like,
he does such a good job because he's still not looking him in the eyes. Like he's still just like,
oh my God. And he's just beat. The two of them are bloodied. It is a culmination, and it's so good. We didn't even talk about the fact that Fisk got to Foggy's family and coerced his family into signing money. They're basically, money laundering for their whole thing, which caused Foggy to then go after the district attorney and run for district attorney, basically to call Fisk out to save his own life. There's so much. Oh my God, we can go for hours.
I know, it is a lot.
Because there's so much.
His brother's now running the butchery. I don't know if butchery is the word. And
which is Penguin's mom plays Foggy's mom. I just need to put that out.
Yeah, but they're going to Florida now. But they manipulated Foggy's family into investing with Red Lion Bank, which was one of the dirty banks. And it was like his brother kind of knew that it was shady and that he shouldn't be doing it, but he did it anyways because he felt like he really didn't have a choice. So they were trying to get Foggy to say, you have to rescind your running of district attorney, because he had gone to that one event and spoke out against Fisk. And so they're like, you have to do this or they're going to, they're blackmailing them.
Right.
And so, so then they, once they blast that, then they're no longer blackmailing them, because also Daredevil was like, you can't go after Foggy or Karen.
Yeah. He's like, you're not going after them. You're not going to tell anybody who I am. Otherwise, Vanessa is,
we're going to,
on the block.
Because he had somebody ready to testify. Oh, who was it? It's another name that kept making me think of another name. One of the Wilson Fisk's guys who, like, oh my God, Daredevil like threw him off the building and he had the thing wrapped around his ankle.
Oh, yeah. It was his driver. It was the driver guy. Remember, he was the one that kept showing up.
What was his name?
M or something? I forget.
His name reminded me of somebody else, and I don't.
I always think John Mulaney, but it wasn't John Mulaney at all. It's harder than M, I think. I don't know.
That's Spider-Pig, if we're talking Marvel.
Oh my God, no! I know what you're talking about.
But he was ready to testify against Fisk, so they had him. I don't remember what his name was, but yeah, so they had him ready to go.
It's just such a culmination. There's so much to happen this season, but the season ends with Matt, Karen, Foggy back together, planning to open Nelson, Murdock, and Paige inside the butchery, where they can, their office for now.
They write it on the napkin, like they
Napkins
did in
written down.
Beginning of season 1 with just Nelson and Murdock.
It's so sweet, dude. And Foggy proposed marriage to Marcine. But
that was in a state of distress, and she goes, "I want to see you do this properly." You can't have Nelson, Murdock, and Paige because
she's not a lawyer.
She's not an attorney. I did make sure this was in New York as well. You cannot have a non-lawyer's name listed on a law firm because there could be repercussions because lawyers have to have professional responsibility and a fiduciary duty towards their clients. And if you're not an attorney, you may just be valuing the money. So it can create some conflicts. There are certain states who are currently trying to overturn that or that are currently able to do that, but that is new. I did cite this. You can go to Rule 5.4 of the New York rules if you would like to know more about that, but we don't have to read all that.
No. Okay.
So what was the last scene? The last scene, I could do a whole episode on this last scene. You mentioned this in the Discord and acted like you had a tinfoil hat on, and you did not. You had a thinking cap on.
All right, nobody responded. Nobody responded to the Discord. You did, but that was it. So this was obviously done before the Fox merger, right? So they called it something else, but I believe the doctor. Okay, so the ending with Bullseye having experimental surgery done on his back as he opens his eyes. You see a bullseye in his eye. Cognium steel, which is another Marvel metal, was being used by Dr. Oyama, aka Lord Dark Wind, which is not just a throwaway name. This is Lady Deathstrike's father, who also created the process of binding bone to adamantium, which his notes were stolen and later used on Wolverine. In the comics, Daredevil was fighting Bullseye. When Bullseye fell and broke his back, Dr. Oyama used adamantium. So yes, after Captain America, Brave New World, and the introduction of adamantium, I thought back to that sequence, as I'm sure a bunch of other people did. I'm not the only one, and I'm not the first one to come up with this, I'm sure. But I haven't seen it anywhere. In the trailer, he's walking in prison, so he's clearly fine. That mother effer has adamantium because he gets out of prison in the season. We know that from the first trailer they showed. There's stuff of Bullseye out and about.
When he was at the premiere.
Yeah, so that dude got some adamantium in his back. That's how he's walking around fine. I guarantee you it's adamantium. Now the adamantium is in play, which means I want a horror style Weapon X film. I want the first X-Men film to be about Wolverine being the bad guy and all of that stuff. And that's what I need. I need a Weapon X film, which leads into an X-Men film, which leads to him fighting the X-Men because he's brainwashed and he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't have his memory, and we get to see him being fused properly. We've always seen allusions in flashback sequences to Dr. William Stryker, who should have been Giancarlo Esposito, but they wasted him by having him be Sidewinder. Stryker should have been Giancarlo, in my opinion.
When Wolverine did not volunteer for the Weapon X program like he did in Wolverine Origins.
Because Giancarlo, if you recall, stole the adamantium. So that would have been perfect if he was William Stryker, who got his hands on adamantium and now is doing a Weapon X program to create his own mutant whatever. Now that he has stolen some adamantium, it was all right there. Marvel, what the hell? Anyways,
let this man cook.
Bullseye as Adamantium is back. I just gave you what you should have
Does.
done, and you could have set up your X-Men universe right there.
You might be doing it. You don't know.
But I still think Kate Bishop should show up in Daredevil. That's what I got.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, that would be fun.
That's what I got.
But I feel like they just picked Coagium Steel because
They
didn't want to do
They didn't have the rights
Vibranium.
yet.
Right, and they didn't have the rights to Adamantium. But clearly they were setting it up for Bullseye to be the main baddie, because they never called him Bullseye. They were setting him up to be the main baddie for season 4, but it's Netflix, so there was never a season 4.
Right.
All right.
So that's season. All right. What, instead of going through the entire Punisher season 2, because honestly it's kind of skippable, why don't you just give us the finale little piece of where we wrap up seeing Frank in the last episode?
Well, I mean, I didn't watch all of them. This is just, I can go through it pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? You do you.
I did this. I put some work into this, so I'm going to do it.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Because then the MCU is pretty quick. So Frank tries to help some girl, Amy, and he gets caught up in her drama, which involves hitmen, bribery, and pictures. Amy took some pictures of the Russian mob of a senator doing things he wasn't supposed to do. However, once the senator's family found out, they sent John Pilgrim to kill Amy and her friends. Side note, one of these parents is Clark's mother from Smallville. I did not know she had that in her.
Gosh dang it.
Penguin's mom, Clark's mom. But Amy escaped, and that's when she found Frank. Pilgrim did eventually get to Amy, but only because the senator's parents have his kids, and Frank convinces / tricks Pilgrim into letting Amy go. So Amy's around the whole season, but Billy is back. That's our main issue. Amy is a side thing. And at first he pretends he doesn't know anything, but then he does go after Frank. However, it seems like his memory is not completely clear. Now remember, this is Billy Russo, Jigsaw. So Russo attacked everyone at the hospital in New York. So Mahoney gets jurisdiction because she's like, oh, this is Mahoney being the cop that is been a super cool dude for throughout all 3 seasons of Daredevil and whatnot. Not Madani, Mahoney. They made those names way too close together. So that's the honest cop. So they team up, though. Castle and Madani, though, then team up to take Billy Russo out for good. Frank gets himself arrested by one of the clean cops from Daredevil. Karen Page shows up and pays him a visit. So this is why I wanted to mention this, because we get Karen. This is the last time we saw her.
That's true.
So she's basically comforting Frank, and Frank's all upset because he thinks he killed these 3 women. So Madani and Karen are like, this is not in character for you. He's like, no, I did it. I didn't mean to. So they end up going to the guy at the morgue, and Karen knows this guy. So she knows how to work him, and she promises him something, and Madani doesn't know what she's promising. Turns out she had to give him her heels. So this guy then shows them the 3 bodies. The 3 bodies were shot up close because there's gunpowder on them, whereas Frank would have had to have killed them far away. So it turned out Russo was basically setting Frank up the whole time so that he would get arrested and feel bad, because that's the real thing. Frank doesn't kill innocent.
No, he doesn't at all.
So in the very last scene that we see Karen, Mahoney, the clean cop, sees her walking out of the hospital with no shoes on. Fire alarms are going off because she set them off, because Frank was like, does Matt Murdock know you're here? He's a good guy. He doesn't know you're here. You need to go. And she shows up and was able to get in there because she's like, I work for Nelson and Murdock. We're still the attorneys of record. One, I think that, it's still Nelson and Murdock, not Ann Page, because you can't do that. But also it could be because they were Nelson and Murdock when they did represent Frank. Okay, so so that's the last time we see, and he's like, where's your shoes? And she's like, I gave him up for a good cause. So kudos to Karen. I really like that they incorporated her into Punisher. So Madani, this is now the last episode. Madani ends up shooting Billy, and as he's bleeding out, he calls Curtis because he doesn't want to die alone. Frank shows up instead of Curtis, which means Curtis called Frank and was like, hey, Billy's here and he's bleeding out, which was really sad too. He tried to make that guy fix him up, and when he passed out, the guy dumped him in a dumpster.
Tough.
Yeah. So Frank shows up and he's listening to a sob story, and then Frank just straight up shoots him. He's like, I'm done. I'm not listening to this crap.
I don't blame him. I wish more people were like that.
So we wrap up with Frank killing the senator's mom, which is also Clark Kent's mom, and telling the dad he can kill himself, or all the evidence of their evil shit is getting sent to the New York Bulletin, which is where Karen works or worked. We don't know if she's still working there. Pilgrim had told them that he had killed Frank, which is why they were so confused when Frank showed up. We then see Pilgrim drive away with his sons as Frank and Amy quietly nod goodbye. Because, Frank and Pilgrim had a moment when he realized, I'm only trying to do this and get Amy this child because they have my sons. Yeah. Then Frank drops Amy at a bus station with a wad of cash. 3 months later, Madani is now at the CIA and offers Frank a job. He seems less than interested, and then he walks into some warehouse and shoots a whole bunch of gang members that were about to shoot each other. And of course, he is wearing his Punisher attire. Yes. That's the last time we saw Frank Castle.
And, he's in Daredevil Born Again. He's got longer hair, so who knows where he's been at the same time. I would really enjoy if his special presentation was him surviving the blip and trying to go after Kingpin, and that brings him face to face with Ronin, and just saying.
Yep. And speaking of the blip.
Anyways, the blip. So let's go into our MCU.
Legit MCU.
So the last time we saw Daredevil in Echo was in one episode, which was the first. We see him fighting Echo. Kingpin then tells Echo that she held up against Daredevil better than any of his other men. Very true. This is a flashback that takes place in 2021, which means Matt didn't blip. Again, we're all right there. In
But it's not the last time we saw him.
No, Spider-Man No Way Home, we see Matt catch a brick while talking to Peter. Because he's a really good lawyer, obviously, he also tells Pete that all charges should be dropped. However, Happy may need a lawyer because there's some missing tech from Stark.
And Happy's also foggy.
Yes. Yeah, man. Now in Hawkeye, Kate Bishop's mom was working for Fisk. After Kate fights Kingpin pretty well, Maya, aka Echo, shows up after learning he ordered the hit on her dad despite considering Maya and her father were practically family. So Maya shoots him, assuming he's dead. The main problem here, however, is that Fisk went from handcuffs at the end of season 3 of Daredevil to on the streets in Hawkeye. We don't know. I'm sure we're going to figure it out.
I wonder if the blip has something to do with that.
Again, is it really far-fetched for somebody like that to be mayor?
Out again.
Anyways.
Right.
I think that Kate Bishop, if her mom's working for Fisk, this would be a really good opportunity to tie the MCU with Daredevil by bringing her in for like an episode or something like that to just briefly overlap. But neither here nor there. She-Hulk, Matt shows up in court against She-Hulk, defending the guy who makes superhero costumes, stating that he needs his anonymity protected and the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. It turns out that She-Hulk's client was using jet fuel, which Matt smelled, in the shoes the costume designer made, which was not supposed to be used. The dude was claiming he was injured, because of one of the boys.
Boots.
Matt wins, then meets up with She-Hulk at a bar. Daredevil goes to stop the guy with the jet fuel. She-Hulk interferes, rips his mask off, sees it's him. They then work together in more ways than one. That's also when they get their freak on. Matt does the Daredevil walk of shame in his costume.
Or is it the walk of pride?
You got me, sir.
He looks pretty happy.
At the end of the show, we see a family backyard barbecue where Matt is being interrogated as Jen's boyfriend until the Hulk shows up with his new son, Scar, which a whole other, like, what the hell?
Just, like, keep in mind, like, Daredevil has met Hulk. He's met Bruce Banner. I feel like that is, we're not giving enough credit to that of how these worlds...
That was very quickly just glossed over. Matt Murdock.
Exactly. It was like an end credit scene.
He met Hulk. And
he met Hulk, yes. And
going
Kingpin
from
has met Hawkeye. Like, things are happening.
Yeah, it's all right. Anyways, last but certainly not least, in Echo, we got the backstory on how Wilson Fisk knew Maya even as a little girl. We learned that he survives in Hawkeye. Wilson still wants Maya as family, but nah, dude, you killed my dad. So then I don't care. He killed dad. If Tony Stark killed my mom.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
So then Wilson threatens to kill her family that she has left as Fisk punches Maya. Ancestors are awakened, and the women kick some serious ass as Fisk's goons are taken out. Maya brings Fisk to his knees, makes him see his childhood, and a childhood that we learned in Daredevil really isn't the best. Can relate. As he ended up killing his dad, I cannot relate to this one. He would beat him and his mom.
Different hammer, though.
She tells him to let go of the anger and the pain. He does not. One of his guys then grabs him and drives away. In the end credit scene, Fisk is on the plane, saying he wants a meeting with someone on the phone. That's where we see him watching the news, talking about the current mayoral race and how they need someone else to run a fighter. Someone who knows the city. Fisk is interested. So we are probably going to get a lot of good answers because there's some scenes, especially in a diner, that looks really familiar, where Matt and Fisk are talking to each other. Interesting. I'm wondering how that plays.
Looks familiar.
I do believe, I think it was the diner that I could be wrong, but maybe it was a diner where Matt was in with somebody, but I think Punisher and Karen were sitting in the diner ordering a bunch of black coffee.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like that diner that Matt
and he was using Karen as bait to have the Clancy Brown people shoot it up because they were trying to kill Karen because she was getting onto the truth.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I could be wrong.
I mean, that would make sense if it's a diner in Hell's Kitchen.
But if it's a diner's Hell's Kitchen, it's probably that diner. Yes, as I hit my microphone. But that's where we last saw Fisk. That's, Daredevil, everybody there. We did it. We culminated this entire Daredevil for you guys.
That's where everyone was the last time you saw them.
I am so excited. Lauren and I will be doing reviews of the episodes as they air, so not like the second they air. No, we'll be doing Cantina Hours, our live Cantina Hours on our YouTube, so please come find us on Hops Geek News on our YouTube, where we are going to be doing our reaction. We're going to be talking each week about the episodes as they release. We're both beyond excited. I cannot tell you how pumped we are. We have been talking about this nonstop.
Well, and what's fun too is this came out and we watched all of this before we even met.
Yeah.
So now we
So
get to like discuss all of it. This was my
this
most
was
anticipated for 2025 when we talked like
TV show wise. Yeah.
no,
Hands down.
TV and movie.
And
This is
movie.
my
Okay.
most excited.
But you're right, though. This was something that the two of us watched. Punisher, Daredevil, all of this, save the MCU stuff. But this was all stuff we watched before getting to know each other. Now we're getting to talk about it and revisit it. And we watched it together, not to like physically together, but we watched it. Got to talk about it. Now we're going to watch Daredevil together. We might actually be able to do like the shared Disney watch together. Who knows? But
we probably good.
I'm pumped. I'm
pumped
cannot tell
too.
you how
Josh actually watched all these, so he'll probably watch it too.
Carrie never did, so I don't have to get tied down to one thing or
Josh,
the other.
a few years ago, he was random. He's like, "Are these any good?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I would pop in randomly. I didn't watch all of them.
Wow.
But we are on season or episode 4 of White Lotus. I didn't talk about
yeah. That's a whole other. I have been watching White Lotus. Anyways, we'll talk about that later on because this episode has gone on. I am on White Lotus currently. I've been writing reviews each week.
This is our longest bonus episode ever.
Yes, special presentation that went longer than a Marvel one, but every week we are here. Monday will be our episode where we get to talk with Carl J. Grasso, talking about Mutilator 2 and his other acting in really fun horror movies. So check that out. By all means, patreon.com/HopsGeekNews, where March's Patreon movie is going to be The Boondock Saints. There was a fight.
I haven't watched that in years.
It's, such a good movie. We also have our Discord. Come join our Discord. Come join the chat because I'm going to get a Daredevil chat going in there. Spoilers, of course, if people don't then mute the channel, but where we can talk about it. We got all of our social media accounts. Find us there. And then make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow, tell all of your friends. And then we have our website. Everything is in the notes below. Shout out to our patrons, Riley, Corey, Lynn, Tabby, Scott, Patrick, Stacy, Jess, Tracy, Micah. Yes, you get ad-free episodes. You get them early. And then, of course, we get to hang out, watch movies together, have a good time. And then afterwards, we typically play Jackbox together. So not only do you get to watch a movie, we also get to play some really fun Jackbox games after the movie. We just did Dodgeball, in February. Boondock Saints is going to be in March around St. Paddy's Day. So come hang out with us. This has been your Daredevil pre-show, your presentation. Thank you guys. We will see you in a courtroom or somewhere in Hell's Kitchen soon, or maybe at a brewery near you.
Josie's.
Yes.
See you at Josie's.